You are listening to the CittaCalcioUsa show, the only news and podcast in English about AS Cittadella. Hello everyone, welcome back to the CittaCalcioUsa show, episode number 133, coming to you on Thursday, July 18th. Training has officially begun for Cittadella in their 2024-2025 regular season campaign as the team is back at the Tombolato, back to training as they get ready for this weekend's presentation in Piazza Pierrobon, the city center, before traveling to Lavarone up into the mountains to really begin their preseason retreat. We have some news now. We do now know Cittadella's full schedule for their upcoming Serie B campaign, so we're going to be talking all about that in this podcast. So we have a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. Before we start, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CittaCalcioUsa and visit our website at CittaCalcioUsa.com for more articles, news. We have a lot of good stuff in this summer on the website, so please check it out at CittaCalcioUsa.com. Now, before we get into the calendar, fixtures, presentations, that kind of stuff, as this was mainly what the main podcast is going to be about, is those fixtures. I want to just quickly touch upon the fact that training has begun for Cittadella. They got at the Tombolato this Tuesday. Tuesday. They began training at the Tombolato, training with the new guys. There was some media access for some journalists who got to talk to Marchetti and Guarini, and just to take some photos. The construction at the Tombolato is still ongoing, but as you know, the team trains to the field adjacent to the main stand, the main stadium there. So it is good to be back. It seems like it's, for some, I think it feels like it's been a long time since Cittadella last played their last game in Cremona, which ended in a 3-0 loss. It seems like a long time ago. Yet, I think for some people like Elan Castrati, who it seems like just 2 weeks ago he was playing in the Euros with Albania, now has to report back to training. But I think everyone has had a good break, and it's really good to see everyone back, despite the really hot weather in Cittadella that they're facing in Veneto. I heard it's very hot and humid, so that makes way for a very non-pleasant weather for football, but this is what we got to do at this part of the year. In Lavarone, it will be much cooler, and I'm sure the players will appreciate that. But another thing that was released earlier in the week was officially the opening season presentation at Piazza Pierrobon this Saturday at 8:30. Then the day after, the team will travel up to Lavarone to do their preseason in the mountains. But like the normal seasons, like in the past seasons, the team does go up to Lavarone to do their preseason retreat, as we all know. But like in previous seasons, there is a opening ceremony, opening presentation. That's usually when we know what the new jerseys look like, what the new kits, if there's going to be any special kit like there was last season. We're going to know all that stuff, and it's a good way for the public and to everyone to gather there and to see them all in their new kits, new players, all that stuff. So it's really good. Piazza Pierrobon this Saturday at 8:30. Special guests will include Gianluca Di Marzo, so he's done past presentations like this, so he's once again another guest there. They did similar presentations in the previous years, but I think last season, if you remember, it was really, really special, and it was an exception because, like we all know, it was the 50th anniversary of the club, so it was a really bigger spectacle. They actually did it at the Tombolato. There was fireworks. There was pre-match with all the legends, little friendly match, and some players got to go on, or some fans got to go on the field and got to meet the players up close. So it was a really good, and I think even though it might not be to that magnitude this year, I think it's still going to be a really good opportunity to see everyone there and to wish them well before they go on to the preseason retreat in Lavarone. And really, we're only, if you're probably going to be listening to this on Friday, July 19th, as I'm recording on the 18th. But when you're listening to this, if you're listening to this on the 19th, we are only 3 weeks away from Cittadella's first official match of the new season. That is away at the Mappe Stadium against Sassuolo in the Coppa Italia. We're going to be, obviously, as the weeks come closer, we're going to be talking about that game. But really, 3 weeks, that's 21 days. That's not a whole lot of time. If you're asking me, it's going to be flying by real quick, especially with this preseason retreat up in the mountains. Dave Cittadella has some games planned for their preseason up in Lavarone. I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but in the mountains, Lavarone. But yeah, get ready. That's gonna be definitely a buzzword in this next few weeks, as Cittadella will be spending most of their times there. But here, the another thing that was released last time I talked was the test match, what they call in Italy, but the preseason friendlies that they usually have in Lavarone. You have the usual opponents like Ape Cimbra, which is a non-league side. They play them the 21st of July at oh man, this is in military time. I'm not used to this. 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Italy time. So every time that I'm saying is in Italy local time. So Alpe Cimbra, like always, like they have as in previous seasons, that's at 5 o'clock on the 21st. Then on the 24th is Real Vicenza, another lower league side, or I believe that's it's non semi professional team. But anyway, Real Vicenza, that's 24th again at 5 p.m. Then it's Ace Este, if I pronounce that right. The 26th at 5 p.m. Then it's Virtus Verona, the Serie C side, at the 28th of July at 5 p.m. once again. And then the 31st of July at 5 p.m. is FC Legnano Solus. If I pronounce that correctly, please let me know if I didn't. But that's the last game in Lavarone on the 31st of July. And then on the 3rd of August, they have one more preseason match against FC Bassano. This time, though, it is going to be held in Bassano de Grappa, so the Stadio Rino Mercante. That's going to be where it is going to be played. It's actually at 6 p.m. that time on the 3rd of August. It's a good opportunity. If you can make it up into Lavarone, this is a good opportunity because Bassano de Grappa is like a 20 minute drive from Cittadella's city square. So that'll be a very good opportunity to see them before they play Sassuolo in the following week. But that's kind of the preseason schedule, the planner really for the team. Obviously, there's going to be days in between. They're going to be training, usually a double days where they train in the morning and then train in the evening. But for so far, I don't know any details on the exact itinerary. But that's basically the preseason fixture list for Cittadella. Now, before we get into the calendar, I want to just bring up some new signings, new departures, new transfer news that we may have not have heard of in the last podcast. Valerio Mastrantonio has completed a free transfer to Trapani in Serie C. It was, as we all knew, it was the end of the contract for Mastrantonio here in Cittadella, so he currently transfers to Serie C for Trapani in Sicilia. So we wish Mastrantonio the best. He's been here for the last 4 seasons, signing in Venturato's last season as a coach. But Mastrantonio currently at Trapani. If you remember last podcast, we did talk about Andrea Danzi leaving and the possibility of his replacement, Federico Casolari, signing. Well, that rumor is now official as Casolari signs from Sassuolo. Defensive midfielder expected to be a replacement for Danzi in that defensive midfielder because that is his natural position. It would really only make sense because Danzi did play kind of like as that support role or as a second option to Branca, who, if he was injured or suspended for whatever case, then Danzi would start. I'd expect Casolari to play the same kind of role as Danzi, maybe even play off the side, kind of like how Vita, Carriero, or Tronkin plays alongside him. But That's my prediction. Is he's going to slide into that defensive midfielder, as that's his really position that he's been playing the whole time. He was Casolari did play for Gubbio last season for um, only actually for the whole season. He made, I believe it was 31 appearances 31 appearances for Gubbio in Serie C last season. He played alongside Jacopo De Sogus, who, like we mentioned before, has signed for Cittadella. So this is another former teammate that is going to be coming into this Cittadella team this season. So that's going to be definitely one to watch. But yes, Federico Casolari signs from Sassuolo. I want to say it's a free transfer because I believe his contract was up at Sassuolo, and Transfer Market is currently saying that it is a 3-year contract. But I do remember in the report it's saying Sassuolo did have a buyback option, if I remember correctly. There's been a lot of these like buyback options for a lot of these players, so forgive me if I am wrong on this, but I'm just gonna be double checking this right now as I pull up the stats for Casolari. This was actually my recent article for CittaCalcioUsa.com, so please check it out. Yes, a right to buyback option for Casolari and Sassuolo. It was a free transfer. Yes, Sassuolo did confirm it was a free transfer with a right to buy back from the club. So that's Casolari. That becomes the 5th player to join Cittadella this offseason, alongside De Sugus, Simone Tronkin, Di Alicio in center midfielder, and Masangelo on the left back. We still don't know. There was a couple players out of contract. We knew that was Danzi and Mastrotonio, who have all left. We're still waiting on what Federico Giraldo is going to do, because his contract was up, and remember he was on loan from Reggiana. Not Regina, not Reggiana. I always get those confused. He was on loan from Regina, and as you know, Regina is in Serie D. So, and it didn't look likely that he was going to come back. So we don't know where Giraldo is going to go. But for now, as of currently, right now, he is not on the roster. Same thing goes to Nicolas Sagionetto, who was a homegrown player for Cittadella. He came through the academy and got some playing time last season, but he was also out of contract, and currently he is not on the roster as of today. But the depth chart really is looking pretty nicely. On the left, the first signing of the offseason was Masangelo. I'd assume if Giraldo does end up leaving, which it's like looking like it is a possibility, I'd assume that Masangelo would take the left back place, just because he maybe has a little more experience than Alicio Rizza, also on the left. But I definitely expect them to interchange throughout the season, kind of like what we saw this past season with Carisone and Salvi, both very good fullbacks that could play. One option is good. If you could play one or the other, it's all good. So that's kind of what we have on the left back. Really, the main things is in the midfield, and I'm really interested to see where Simone Tronkin is going to be playing, because in his Vicenza days he was playing. They all say center mid, so is that more of an attacking center mid? Is that more defensive, kind of like what Branca is? And once again, this comes the question that, like I've been speaking in all the past podcasts, is what Guarini is going to do this season. Is he going to play with the 3 in the back, or is he going to play in this kind of traditional 4-3-1-2 like he's been doing, for the longest time as head coach? So that's I'm very interested to see, and hopefully in these preseason games we could kind of start to make those conclusions. Although I'm sure it's subject to change every now and then. But now let's get into the main content of this podcast, is the calendar. As you know, last week the fixtures were officially released by Lega B, and we now know the official Cittadella calendar for the 2024-2025 season. Now we did know that Cittadella did request to play their first 2 matches away from home due to the ongoing construction at the Tombolato. It is confirmed and official that Cittadella will play the first two matches away from home, and they will be opening the campaign Saturday, August 17th. That is 8:30 p.m. local time against Salernitana at the Stadio Arecchi in Salerno. So Cittadella traveling to Salernitana. It is Granata versus Granata in that sense to open up the season. Then the following weekend on the 24th, once again at 8:30 p.m. is away against Brescia. So it's not probably not the most easiest start, but definitely not the hardest start. If we keep going on the fixture list here, then they do play a midweek game on the 27th. That's a Tuesday. It is Cittadella's scheduled to be first home match at the Tombolato in the reconstruction of the field and the stands and stuff. It is against Pisa, 8:30 p.m. That is the game midweek against Pisa. First quote unquote home match. Remember, it is not entirely 100% sure that Cittadella will be playing at the Tombolato on that game. They could be playing in Ferrara at Spal Stadium, or they could be playing in Bolzano. That's still a possibility. However, that is good that Lega B has actually put out the first 3 out of the 4 games for Cittadella will be away from home. So, which it makes it a little difficult, but it does even out at the end of the season. So I'm sure it's going to be that's actually a very interesting point. Would you rather start with all home games, get as many points, and kind of have that already an advantage, or would you want to play catch up but have more home games to spare? It's a very interesting topic. But the next game before the international break, the September international break, is away against Modena, Saturday, August 31st, again an 8:30 p.m. local time kickoff. Expect these summer games and maybe in September too to be towards the night, because as you know, it gets very hot in Italy and it's really hard to play at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So all the first 4 games of the season, of the Serie B season, is at 8:30 p.m. So once again, that is away at Salernitana, away at Brescia, home against Pisa, and then away against Modena. The first, I wouldn't say first, because it could be played at Pisa, but really I think the Tombolato should be ready for the 14th of September game against Catanzaro. That is the next scheduled game, match day 5 for Cittadella against Catanzaro. That should be ready at the Tombolato. 14th of September, after the international break, after the 4 games, the Tombolato should be ready to go. So I don't know about Pisa, but you could probably safely say that the game against Catanzaro on the 14th should be ready to go for Cittadella. But a few more points about this fixture release, as I kind of, I'm not going to read you every single game of the calendar, but kind of some main points. There was definitely a noticeable difficult stretch in late October and / November. It's going to be a very difficult a month and a half for Cittadella as they get ready to play midweek game against Sampdoria at the Tombolato. Then they travel away against Palermo. Then it's back home against Cesena, which seems like going to be a very good team. If you watch the Speaking Serie B with Elia from Speziato, you will know that I put Cesena really high in the standings. And that little, I just hinted what I was going to say at the end of this podcast, but we'll get there in a little bit. But anyway, at home against Cesena, then it's away against Bari after the November international break. So that is 4 difficult games, I think, for Cittadella. It's going to be 4 difficult opponents, even though that Bari didn't perform very well last season. I expect them to be much better. Sampdoria, Palermo, definitely very good sides with a lot of quality. They're always difficult to beat. And then you got Cesena, newly promoted side. I think they're going to do very well this season. And when I give my really official Serie B predictions, I will tell you where they will finish. But I think that's a very difficult stretch of games for Cittadella, especially when you consider in November they travel to Palermo and then away to Bari. So one of the longest away trips of the season in the span of 1 month. So that's going to be definitely one to watch and very interesting note. Once again, Boxing Day is going to be away from Cittadella, but this time it is a bit closer than Ascoli last season. This time, Boxing Day will be in Bolzano against Südtirol, but the Cittadella will get a home match on the 29th of December. And speaking of December, it's going to be one packed month. There's going to be a lot of games in December, more than last year, if I remember correctly. I'll read you the December schedule. It is away at Spezia, home against Cremonese, home against Reggiana, away against Südtirol, and then a home against Palermo. So this is, I think, where the home games start to come into place for Cittadella. I think if they want to finish high up the table and to get into the top half of the table, something they have not done under Guarini yet, I think these stretch of games will be very important. Yet they are playing against very difficult teams. I think Spezia are going to be better this year. Cremonese are contenders for top two. Reggiana, I still don't know. Südtirol, always a difficult team to play against, especially up in Bolzano. And then at home against Palermo, it's always going to be a packed house, and it's always going to be a very difficult game. But it is nice that Cittadella does end the year with Palermo. They started the year with Palermo, and they're going to be ending the year with Palermo in 2024. So if you remember, they beat Palermo 2-0 in January of this year. That was the first game of 2024. And then they end 2024 against Palermo at the same place. So that's very interesting how Lega B has done that. But the final 5 fixtures for Cittadella is their final run-in is home against Salernitana, away against Reggiana, home against Brescia, away against Frosinone, and then home against Bari. Now, this is definitely a very difficult road run-in, just like it was last season with Como, Cremonese, and Bari, all in the final few games. This is also another difficult one because if you just start to get an early sense that Brescia, Frosinone, Bari are all going to be in the top table, are all going to be having something to play for in those games, and that's definitely going to be three very difficult games for Cittadella in those cases. Now, they do get 2 of their last 3 games are at home. That's the home games against Brescia and at home, the season finale at home against Bari. So that's going to be very, very, very interesting. And their first, I already said this note, but once again, the first quote-unquote home match is against Pisa on the 27th of August. But really, they should be ready to go at the Tombolato 14th of September against Catanzaro. So those are kind of like my little takeaways from the schedule. Once again, I don't think it's a very difficult start of the season, although I think it could have been a lot worse. I still think it's not going to be easy. It's never easy in Serie B when just the nature of the league. It's always very difficult. But if you remember last season, they had Reggiana to start. They had to go to Parma. They had to go to Bari. They had Sampdoria in there. I remember Catanzaro. And they did well. Venezia too. They did well. And this season, maybe it's against teams who might not be in the top contending teams for this year. Who knows? But I think you have to be happy with that start for Cittadella. If you're a Cittadella supporter, I think it's very doable, especially those 2 games. I think it's very important to come away with something from those opening 2 games before coming back home and for the match against Pisa, because if you start 2 games with losses away from home, that really puts on the pressure for that game against Pisa on the 27th. So there's still a lot to questions to be asked about this team, and I think we're going to be seeing it in the next month or so. Finally, before I end this podcast, I want to talk about my new program, or our new program that we're going to be doing in collaboration with Elia from the Speziato. As you know, he's a Spezia supporter from Florida. We've had some great chats, some great podcasts together in the past, especially last season when Cittadella played Spezia. And we decided to start this own kind of video program. So it's going to be not only audio, but also video. And it's going to be available on YouTube on both of our channels at CittaCalcioUsa and Elia, the Italian guy. That's his channel, and we're going to be speaking about Serie B in English. So this is going to be a kind of a little channel to talk about the latest news in Serie B, to talk about the latest results, the latest predictions, whatnot. We're still it's still a little bit of a work in progress, but we're planning on making new episodes after every match week. So it's going to be at least one episode after every match day, where we're going to be talking about the big headlines from the games, from the big news, the best goals, and so forth. It's really an opportunity to, well, we're hoping to really spread our content and really to spread the information in Serie B, because there's a lot of people that don't really that don't watch it, but also just aren't really informed about it. And it's unfortunate, because it's a very interesting league if you do watch it week in, week out. And there's a lot of people, English speaking people, that want to learn more about these teams. You got a lot of fans in the United States, especially. You got Palermo, Bari, Cosenza, Catanzaro, Sampdoria. You got all those. You got all those teams. There's a real demand in the United States, and really in the English-speaking world, for Serie B content. And I think it's going to be really, really beneficial for everyone if we're going to be talking about it. And we'll have occasional guests. We're planning on that, and so I think it's going to be really good. But a new episode will be available after every match week. So starting in August, we're going to be uploading it. But we made actually one official video. It was kind of a test run, but we did have our early season predictions. So please check out that video. Like I said, it's available on both of our YouTube channels, CittaCalcioUsa and Elia, the Italian guy. Also, please make sure to check out Elia. He makes very good content about Spezia and also about Serie B. But that's kind of a program alert there, and please check out our new program that we're going to be doing for Serie B. Now, I've been talking for way too long now, so I'm going to be ending this podcast here. Thank you for listening to this episode of the CittaCalcioUsa show. If you liked it, please continue to watch. We'll have an episode every week. Please follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CittaCalcioUsa, and visit our website at CittaCalcioUsa.com for more information, news, articles, all that stuff about AS Cittadella. That's it for me today. I will see you next week covering the presentation for Cittadella and a little insight into the Granata preseason up in Lavarone. That's it for me today, and as always, Forza Citta. Thank you for listening to the CittaCalcioUsa show. If you liked it, please share and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CittaCalcioUsa. See you next time, and remember, Forza Citta.